I am thrilled to be with you. Stephen, thank you for that generous introduction. Now I wish like my hair was standing up and had a lab coat on or something, and I could really play the mad scientist role here. I'm thrilled to be with you and to talk about something that is really, really critical in our space, which is donor retention. Donor retention is one of the most important metrics that we could spend time thinking about, figuring out how do we improve and optimize. Yet at the same time, it's been stuck in our industry for as far back as I can tell that it's been benchmarked and measured. Most industry reports would suggest that donor retention overall, basically the likelihood that someone is going to give to you again next year, is stuck in that like 40 to 45% range. And what we're going to do today is talk about some actual really practical things that you can do to actually move the needle on retention. We talk about retention all over across all the different conferences and training in our space, but oftentimes it's pulling from, opinions and feeling and intuition and gut kind of instinct about what might create better relationships. Well, when we haven't seen the needle move on retention in 20 plus years, we really have to go back to the drawing board and ask some hard questions about what actually can move the needle in a practical, meaningful way. And I believe that the way to get there is through some really detailed research, testing, optimization, leaning into data to try to understand what can actually help. And so to get started, what I want to do is take you to what I like to call the desert island of depressing donor retention rates, which is where we have been stuck again for about 20 years, if not even longer than that. So welcome to this deserted island. It's not bad here. I mean, look at it. Like it's colorful. It's a little hazy. The weather isn't great, but it's okay. You've got a beach, but maybe it's not the best. It's a little rocky. It's some coarse sand. It's not like that soft sand you'd want. So like, it's fine, but we've been stuck here for a long time in just fine. And we want to figure out how do we get off this thing and actually see retention grow in a meaningful way. And so over the past 12 to 18 months at NextAfter, what we've been doing is basically pointing all of our tools from research to experimentation to try and ask some really critical questions about what can move the needle on retention. I'll share a few of those questions with you. We're turning over every rock and stone to figure out, what if we ran a big like branded advertising campaign, similar to what some big for-profit brands would do to try to go market like Coke to you, Coca-Cola to you, something like that. Running these big branded advertising campaigns. If we did something like that, just over the top of our fundraising programs, might that actually move the needle on retention? Maybe not. Maybe it's a waste of money. We don't know till we try it. We don't know till we test it. Another question, what if we compared the donor experience and the donation experience specifically of 200 plus organizations to their actual overall retention rates? Might we start to uncover some clues and some patterns and some trends about what could be leading to better performance? What if we could actually learn something by comparing retention rates across verticals to their messaging and see, are there some outliers? Are there people that have better retention rates because their messaging is better or different? What can we learn from high performing verticals that maybe we can pull those strategies into our world and into our universe? Could we actually learn something interesting and helpful by looking at maybe the onboarding communication for high performing organizations in terms of retention? And so these are some questions we've been asking related to different experiments and research we've been conducting. And while we're asking all these questions and doing all this research and running all these tests and experiments, it's felt like there's been this sort of secret like message in a bottle that's just floated along that has a very critical understanding and learning for us to actually move the needle on retention in a really meaningful way. All these other questions are really good, but it's felt like while we're in this world of uncovering every rock and stone, this secret formula maybe floated along and gave us a really critical answer. So I want to take you on that journey for a bit. Last fall, I jumped on a webinar with the Virtuous crew where we're talking about this series of research we've been conducting on retention. To date, we've released 3 different studies looking at everything from value proposition and messaging to the actual donation experience, the pathway to get to a donation page, the forms, the copy, the layout, the design. We've also most recently released a study looking at the new donor onboarding series, comparing to retention rates. And typically when we go conduct research like this, we're only able to look at the donor experience. We call this mystery donor research, which we try to put ourselves in the shoes of a donor and really feel and experience and understand what it's like to give a gift, what it's like to be a donor. Sometimes there's really interesting, cool ideas that we learn from that we can go put to the test. More often, there's a lot of pain points and things we uncover of, ooh, this is really challenging across the industry for donors as they go just try to make a donation. But just looking at the experience doesn't actually tell us what works. So what we did over the past 18 months is we teamed up with the Virtuous team who helped us build a sample of organizations where we can actually look into their overall donor retention performance. So we're not just looking at the donor experience, but we're also looking at what are the retention rates and are there trends and patterns that we can find in the data that might give us clues as to what can move the needle in a meaningful way on donor retention. So I'll give you a couple quick little insights. There's lots of insights we've drawn out of these different research studies so far, but a couple ones, especially from the earlier reports we put out. In one case, we're looking at how does retention look when you compare it across verticals. And what we found was that these two verticals jump out right off the page that have the highest percentage of high-performing organizations, faith-based organizations, international organizations. And when you drill into the high performers, the majority of these high performers are organizations who are leaning into like values first messaging, casting a vision for the long-term impact that they're trying to make and aligning with the shared values of their donors in their messaging. So there's ideas here to borrow and steal if you don't fall into one of those verticals, but how can we align our messaging with shared values of our donors and not just focus on the here and now and the current happenings, but the long-term vision for impact? Might that actually move the needle on retention? Or what we thought could be just sort of the silver bullet solution is maybe all that really matters is just building a strong and large recurring donor file. Might that just be the end all solution? But what's interesting as we kind of overlaid all these different metrics of vertical performance, of retention and recurring donor percentages, what we found is you certainly have high retention organizations in some of these high performing verticals, but it's kind of a mixed bag when you look at recurring donor percentages. You've got some mid-performing organizations that have a high percentage of their file giving recurring donors. You've also got low retention organizations that have a large percentage of their donors giving recurring gifts. So there's lots of things we can do to try to get somebody over the line to give that recurring gift, but it's not the end-all be-all solution. Who's to say that those people do continue on into year 2 or into year 3 if we're not leaning into more effective strategies of cultivation and stewardship and onboarding and all these different things? So what we really concluded from these kind of early research studies was this working recipe for donor retention. We need to have values-focused fundraising, leaning into shared values that we have with our donors, a shared vision for the impact we want to see on our cause and in the world, and pair that with a strong recurring giving program. And maybe if we put those two things together, we can actually see high donor retention rates. It's an interesting approach. Not everyone's employing a deep, sophisticated recurring giving program. Some are doing one, but not the other. But as we're kind of uncovering this, my friend Brad came along. And this is Brad. He oversees data analytics at NextAfter. And he has a really unique kind of vision and perspective, because what Brad gets to do is anytime we start working with a new organization, Brad dives deep into the data to try to figure out what's working, what's not. How do we go build a 3+ year plan for digital growth and overall fundraising growth? And so he has his hands in the data every single day. And not only that, he's also looking at all of our existing organizations that we work with, where we've got about 30+ organizations where we've stitched together kind of every single data source that they have to see this holistic picture of their programs at the macro level. And he started producing something that he calls Friday Fun with Numbers, where basically people on our team can submit questions to Brad. And he's got lots of interesting questions on his own too, where he dives into the data to try to ask and answer really critical questions about digital fundraising and fundraising programs in general. Now, one of these reports that he put out was basically trying to unpack the question of what's the biggest indicator or the most important indicator of a donor's likelihood to churn in the next year, or not give again next year. And there's lots of interesting insights he pulled out of that. But there's one thing that really jumped off the page to me that's relevant for this conversation today, which is this. When you look at new donors and you look at their retention rate going into year 2, if a new donor gives you one gift this year, their retention rate is roughly 21%. In fact, I believe the benchmarks that I've seen across the industry, so not just the organizations that we work with, but across the industry, is more like the 17, 18%. So with this subset of organizations who are employing a digital-first fundraising strategy, they're beating the benchmark by a little bit, but still a 21% retention rate isn't great. Only 21% of the people that we acquire this year through all of our hard work and investment and efforts are going to retain into year 2. However, if we can get a new donor to give a second gift, not next year, but a second gift in year 1, their retention rate jumps up to 45%. We like to look at percent increases and percent decreases because we're optimizers and we're testing, and we want to see, does version A or version B lead to a lift in giving? What this means is if you can get someone to give to you a second gift in their first year, their likelihood of retaining into year 2 goes up 114%, 114% increase in donor retention. And not only that, because if you get someone to give to you in year 2, if these new donors make it into year 2, at worst, they have a 39% chance of becoming your most valuable type of donor, which is a key multi-year donor. At best, it's more like if you get them to give to you twice in year 2, it's more like in the 60% chance they become your most valuable type of donor, a key multi-year donor, giving into year 3 and beyond. And once they reach that stage, lifetime values and average gift sizes and all that stuff start to jump up. They are the most impactful kind of on your bottom line if you get more people into that level of engagement. So it sounds like a simple strategy. And from my perspective and from our perspective at NextAfter, we're always trying to figure out, how do we optimize this? What kinds of things can we tweak and what levers can we pull to move the needle on this metric or on that metric? And now we have a metric we can focus on and say, oh, we just need to get more people to give twice in year 1. We can optimize that. And you might wonder, well, how do you do that? How can you actually influence that metric? How can you do that in a meaningful way? I won't spend a ton of time talking about who we are at NextAfter, but just kind of high level, we really do one thing, which is that we help nonprofits grow their digital fundraising. We do that in a variety of ways, but really across 3 key pillars, where we are a research lab, as you've probably already uncovered, where we do this type of mystery donor research, try to take the pulse of where our sector is at today, what kinds of strategies are organizations using to try to get more people to give and to be generous. But just looking at what other people are doing doesn't tell us what actually works. And so we take all the ideas that we uncover through that research and we have to put them to the test using A/B testing, optimization, statistical science to really prove what works and what doesn't work to get more people to give. We do a lot of that work through our digital first agency, where we're a full service agency. We do everything from email appeals and email campaigns to running year-end campaigns, paid media, donor acquisition, all sorts of stuff. But everything is rooted in testing, trying to uncover exactly what works and decode what works to get more people to give. And then everything we learn from testing, from our agency and consulting type of work, from research, we then turn into training like this session today, because at the end of the day, our mission is to decode what works and then equip you, as many nonprofits as we possibly can, with what's working and what we're learning, so we can see generosity grow. Now, across all these different kind of key pillars, we're running lots of different A/B tests. As of last week, we have over 6,700 online fundraising experiments in our library. Again, all of these are learnings about what works to get more people to say yes to giving. And a lot of these experiments are testing things like emails inside of something like a new donor welcome series, trying to figure out, how do we get more people to convert? How do we get more people to give that second gift in year 1? And there's a lot of interesting learnings. We'll unpack a few of those as we go here. But I want to point out something that we're finding in the data, what the research says about the likelihood of someone giving that second gift and when they give that second gift. Because sometimes we can make this assumption that, this year we want to get this new donor in the door. And then maybe we'll try to activate them again at year end, but really we're going to focus on year 2. Once we get into year 2, then we're going to try to reactivate them with a special campaign or something like that. The reality is, when we look at the data, there is significant second gift opportunity within a donor's first 90 days. So these are 3 different organizations, very different organizations, different verticals, but they all show essentially the same trend. These charts are looking at the percentage of second gifts coming in over time after someone gives that first donation. This social services organization, 44% of second gifts are coming in within the first 90 days of someone becoming a new donor. A higher ed organization sees something similar. 28% of second gifts are coming in within the first 90 days of someone being a new donor. This missions organization, 36% of second gifts are coming in within that first 90-day window. So there's a lot of activity happening even in this like new donor onboarding window. And so how do we actually get more people to give during that time frame and lead to their second gift, not a year down the road, but right now in this first onboarding window? Well, it's not the most innovative strategy in the world. It's probably one you've heard multiple people talk about across many different industry events and conferences and trainings and all that sort of stuff. But we need a highly effective new donor welcome series. Again, that's probably not blowing your mind. You might even say, well, I think I'm good then, because I already have some new donor onboarding communications that go out. We send a postcard and we send a receipt, and then they'll start getting our newsletter. And there's lots of ways, shapes, and forms that these kind of new donor series can take and ways that they can look. But I want to point out some pretty, what I think is pretty sobering data. Because as we look across the nonprofit industry, we see some really scary trends. This is from this most recent iteration of this report we put together in partnership with the Virtuous team, looking at the first 90 days of being a new donor. Here's a few things we found. First off, 27%, that's more than 1 in 4, 27% of organizations did not send a receipt to an online donor within the first 7 days of donating, which some of you probably immediately see the problem here. If I'm giving online, my expectation is that there is instant, immediate communication, immediate confirmation that I have given you a gift. Even if you're not diving into like welcome emails and all sorts of stuff, at least I should get a receipt in a timely fashion. If I go buy something on Amazon, or I just ordered a Mother's Day gift for my wife, and you know what? I got an immediate confirmation in my inbox within seconds, not even minutes, within seconds, that my order was placed, and then I had the order confirmation number, and then I had the shipping and the tracking number so I can keep track of my order. That is the expectation in not 2024, but like 2010. Like, we're behind the times here. That's the expectation of anyone that's interacting online, is I should get immediate confirmation that this transaction has gone through, especially in the case of making a donation, when I need to know, did the actual gift go through? Was I able to give to this cause that is so meaningful to me that I'm willing to give you my hard-earned cash and money to invest in it? We should send them at least a confirmation, and 1 in 4 organizations don't within a 7-day window. Secondly, 51% of organizations did not send a thank you or any meaningful thank you communication within that first 7 days. That's over half of organizations who did not send a meaningful thank you follow-up communication within a week of someone giving. So maybe they sent a receipt, but then they sent nothing else to actually just say the simple words of thank you. And I promise you, the bar here for measuring what's a thank you communication was pretty low. It was basically, is there some kind of email or even direct mail piece that hits the mailbox or the inbox within the first 7 days that just says the words thank you in basically a sentence or more? Over half of organizations didn't say thank you. Now, maybe it came in week 2, maybe it came in week 3, maybe it came a month later. But at that point, I've likely forgotten. You've missed the opportunity to welcome me as a new donor in a meaningful way. Looking a little bit more sophisticated, not a lot more sophisticated, just a little bit, at organizations sending cultivation within a 90-day window. So now you got 3 months to send something. 33% of organizations did not send any kind of cultivation within the first 90 days of donating. That's 1 in 3 organizations. And here, the bar for what is a cultivation message or communication is really low. It's basically anything that's not a receipt, a thank you, or a donation appeal. So that opens the door to basically any other communication. 33% of organizations send no cultivation within a 90-day window to welcome and onboard and steward and cultivate these critical new donors. One more stat for you. 51% of organizations, again, this is over half of organizations, made no attempt within that first 90-day window to ask for a second gift or ask someone to upgrade to recurring. There were no donation appeals that were sent within that 90-day period, despite what we see in the data about the activity levels of people willing to give that second gift, even within a 90-day window. Over half of organizations made zero attempt whatsoever to try to win a second gift. Now, none of this is looking at the effectiveness of the communications that were sent, and we'll touch on that in a moment, in a little bit. These are just like the basic pieces of communication, the basic essential blocking and tackling that we need to have in place to say thank you, to send a receipt, and to start to build some sense of a relationship with our new donors. So if you find yourself saying, oh, we've already got new donor stuff, like we're fine there, I would really challenge that assumption. I would go today and make a donation, go create like a new Gmail address, go make a donation to your organization and go see what happens. Go make sure the stuff that you might think is running is actually running. And I see people in the chat saying, oh, we use this tool, we use that tool, this thing is automated, this goes out. Are you sure? Because the data would say that over half of organizations have nothing even close to resembling an effective new donor onboarding series. So go double check. It's really critically important as we're seeing in the data about what can move the needle on our most critical metric. Let's say that you do have some kind of new donor onboarding series. Having something is not the same as having something that's effective. And so I want to look at some things we've learned that can actually lead to more effectiveness in our new donor onboarding communication and leading more people to say yes to giving that second gift within a meaningful time frame. So what would actually make it more effective? We have an entire course that breaks down and unpacks all sorts of things that can make for an effective new donor welcome series. We won't cover everything today, but I want to show you a handful of tactics with real tests and examples to show you that these aren't just kind of made up. These aren't things that just sound good. They're things that have been definitively proven to work and to work for you. The most effective type of new donor welcome series, they're sent from actual human beings. Now, if you've attended any other kind of NextAfter training, seen me speak in other places, you've probably seen me say this in a million different ways, but it's one of the most important things we need to keep in mind. People give to people. They don't give to marketing machines. They give to people that they know and that they trust. And the most effective welcome series are sent from actual human beings. Here's one very simple experiment example. Version A is sent from the brand name of the organization, and all the copy sounds like marketing language. It's the way that we learned to write marketing copy. Version B is not sent from the brand. It's sent from Audrey. And what does Audrey have to say? She has a quick question for you. Sounds a little bit more authentic. The copy of the email is holistically different in tone. It sounds conversational, but the call to action, the value propositions, the reasons why you should take the next step are all the same. It's just using a more humanized approach holistically in the email. Even just looking here at what we call the email envelope, if you will, the sender name, the subject line, the preview text, this led to a 330% increase in opens, getting more people to open the email and actually consider what you have to say, simply because it was sent from a human being and not from a marketing machine. So that's number one. Here's another one. The most effective welcome series use a humanized design approach. They're not using these overly complicated, robust HTML design templates, all the kind of normal stuff that you turn on with one click in MailChimp or HubSpot or whichever tool that you use. They're using a humanized approach to their design. They're not just sending from people. They're sending emails that look like they come from real people. So they're believable and they're genuine and they're honest. Version A, this is a templatized newsletter. You've got logos, you've got a little introductory note, and then you've got these 3 big blocks with images, with call to action buttons, with headlines, with descriptions about the different blogs and articles and different pieces of content that they want you to engage with. Looks like a very typical newsletter. Actually, a pretty scaled back newsletter template compared to some that are out there. Version B goes even further, though, where it has a quick introductory note from a real person. His name is Jacob. And then it has 3 bullet points. Not these big designed HTML blocks, but bullet points, 3 of them, that just have the name of the resource and a hyperlink. And just this simplified approach, it looks a lot more like something that Jacob put together on his own and sent to you out of his own inbox, led to a 77% increase in clicks. 77% more people actually engaging with the content because it looks like it was sent from someone that they know and that they trust. And we see the same thing when it comes to donation appeals. Version A and version B here are the same exact email in terms of the copy, the call to action, the value proposition, the links. All the messaging is exactly the same. Except the difference is that version B gets rid of the logo at the top, the donate button at the top, the big giant hero image, the progress bar that's embedded in line, the big call to action button at the bottom. It gets rid of all the social media icons. It gets rid of the photo of the sender and just sends an email that looks a lot more like an email that you and I would send each other out of Gmail or Outlook or whatever tool that you use. There's still other things that you could tweak to try to make it look even more genuine. But this approach led to a 29% increase in people actually giving because it looks like something that was sent from someone that you know and someone that you trust. I see some comments about this being a point that some of you don't like. And I'm not here to try to share tactics with you that sound good and feel good. I'm trying to share with you tactics that we have definitively proven over hundreds and hundreds of real world experiments. These are not just simply, my opinion about it. In fact, I like the design stuff. It's fun to create. It looks pretty. But the reality is that people give to the things that they know and that they trust. And when it looks overly like marketing and it smells like marketing, well, I tend to not trust it. I trust things that are sent from people that I have a relationship with, which is the entire point of the New Donor Welcome Series. How do we build that authentic relationship? Here's another example. The most effective Welcome Series leverage content offers for cultivation. They don't just send things like newsletters. They don't just send passive updates about the organization. They're actively cultivating people with things like ebooks that provide value to the donor, things like surveys, things like petitions, things like courses, things like video series, something I actually have to take an action to engage with and get the value from, not just something passively sitting in my inbox. I'm like, that's an interesting newsletter, put it in the archive, move on with my life. Things I have to engage with are the more effective approach. Here's an example. Version A of this welcome series. This is an email welcome series. It sends a survey. It then sends an about the organization type of email. It sends 3 emails that are just stories of impact that have sort of a soft call to action, like a PS, will you give to support X, Y, and Z? Then it ends with a direct donation appeal, and then it hands you off to the ongoing newsletter. Pretty typical approach for any type of onboarding email series. Version B, a holistic treatment on the welcome series, still sends the survey, still sends the about email, but then it sends 6 different emails that are just sharing ebooks. These are things related to the cause of the organization. They're providing value back to the donor. It's not something I just kind of sit back and passively read the email and then move on. I have to read the email, click through to engage, go fill out a form to go download the ebook, and then I have to engage with it and read it. These are active pieces of cultivation, not just passive information. And then it hands you off to the newsletter. There is no direct donation appeal in this series whatsoever. But even without a direct donation appeal, it led to a 920% increase in donations. You may say, how in the world is that possible if you never asked for money? Well, this is how it works. You send an email that talks about the ebook, the survey, the petition, the online course, whatever the offer is. You click through from that email that is cultivation. It sends you to a landing page. On that landing page, you read more about the offer. You fill out a quick form to go get access to it. First name, last name, email, hit the submit button, and then you go to the confirmation page. That does not say, thank you, will you share this on Facebook or Twitter or X or LinkedIn or whatever platform. It moves immediately into a donation appeal. Oftentimes it's focused around, hey, you just got access to this really valuable content. Will you make a donation to help us reach more people with this because of this reason, this reason, this reason, and that reason? Sometimes these pages are focused on an appeal around the organization and the broader mission. There's lots of ways that you can frame it, lots of ways you can test your messaging. But the point is you're moving directly into this opportunity where you've given someone something of value, and you have this moment where they're grateful for it, and they might respond with an act of generosity by giving you a donation. So on the page, you make your appeal, you've got the donation form right there, and many people will choose to give right away. And that is how, even without sending a direct donation appeal, that welcome series saw a 920% increase in giving. You're leading with content, and you're leading with cultivation that's meaningful, but you're creating a pathway to giving at the end of it. Another example for you, the most effective welcome series, ask people to do just one thing at a time. They don't send these super long form emails with like 8 different calls to actions and resources and all that sort of stuff. They ask for one thing at a time. Here's a quick example. Version A here has 6 different unique calls to action within the email, 3 bullet points, 6 links to 6 different places. Version B, the copy is clearly different. Even without reading it, you can see the formatting and the layout and the length are different. But that's because they're focusing on one thing, and so they can focus the copy just on the one call to action. You have more space and more opportunity to unpack the value of taking the call to action. This email has 1 call to action, 2 links, but they both go to the same place. They're asking you to do the same thing. This approach led to a 96% increase in people actually doing something. Where if we overwhelm people with decisions, they might not do anything at all. But if we focus on one thing, in this case, again, a 96% increase in the likelihood that someone would actually click through and engage with what we're asking them to engage with. One more example for you, and sort of a holistic one. The most effective welcome series, communicate like an authentic human being. A holistic welcome series experiment. 7 different emails. This is version A. You can see in the quick example, it uses headers, it uses the logos, it uses imagery, it uses call to action buttons. You can see this like 2-column layout in this formatted email, footer images, and all sorts of different things. Looks pretty typical, like a typical welcome series that you would set up using kind of the default email templates. Swap in your logo, change out your colors, bam, you got a welcome series. Version B is a fundamentally different approach. It has the same number of emails, but it's holistically human. Here's how. Here's all the different things that they're trying to incorporate in these emails. Every single one of them uses a plain text style. We're not foregoing the tracking on these emails. They're still technically an HTML email, but the design looks more like a plain text email. They're relational and they're conversational in tone. Every email in the copy, it's focused on aligning with the core shared beliefs that the organization has with their donors, shared vision for impact on the world. And they're trying to lean into that to give assurance to the donor that we're trying to accomplish the same things together. They're providing value all along the way, not just sending passive information, but providing valuable resources. They are asking people to do one thing at a time. Not sending 8 different calls to action per email, but asking you to do one thing. They're sending every email from a person, not from the name of the brand or from the name of the organization. They have emails where the primary call to action is not to click a link and go take a survey and give me some feedback, but it's to actually hit the reply button and send me your thoughts. The call to action is, will you hit reply and let me know? Which is really scary when we have overwhelming email inboxes. I feel that way. And if you're on our email list, you get lots of emails from me. But if you hit reply back, you're going to hear from a real person. Now, we've got a few people that help with that, so it's not just in my inbox. But there's ways you can solve for that. So you can create this real human relationship, one-to-one, back and forth with your broader email marketing. And then they ask for a specific donation at the very end. This approach, holistic approach of sending a humanized welcome series, led to a 33% increase in opens. Pretty good. Pretty good. I think we'd all take that. A 42% increase in clicks. That's pretty good too. We want to see more engagement. It also led, and you're not ready for this, an 875% increase in donations by sending holistically from real people and building a real, authentic, genuine relationship. Altogether, it led to a 99% increase in overall revenue. They did have 1,500 responses that during this testing window that they now had to reply to, which that part does seem scary and is a bit hard to manage. But in this case, they're seeing a lift in donations and revenue, which gave them the funding to go hire a part-timer to go manage the inbox of people that are hitting reply and responding. So they have the resources to continue to grow and scale this. And beyond that, they're able to do more of the mission work that this organization has set out to do. Because in these responses back, this organization helps people, helps families, helps marriages, trying to find resources to help you have a stronger marriage, have a stronger relationship, solve problems in your family, things like that. And people hit reply and they share some really, really hard stuff. This thing's going on in my relationship. This thing's going on in my marriage with my spouse or my partner. This thing's going on with my kids and with my family. I need some help. I don't know what to do. And now they're able to connect them with, sometimes it's a course, sometimes it's an ebook, sometimes it's a blog post or an article. Other cases, it's actually like counseling services that can help them go through something that's really difficult. So they're doing more missional work because they're building authentic relationships. And at the same time, they're raising more money all along the way. So this is a win-win-win all across the board. Why wouldn't we do this? Now, you may see this and you say, well, all this stuff sounds great. This is what I would think if I saw this for the first time. Like, it sounds great, but these are one-off experiments. Like, these are things that are happening in isolation in maybe a week-long period, a month-long period, some cases a 90-day period. Are these things actually moving the needle for people when it comes to this big macro level goal of moving the needle on retention? And that's where I have good news for you. And this is where, this kind of working with Virtuous to figure out, the donor experience along with retention performance has really uncovered some really cool things. In this most recent iteration of this study, looking at the new donor onboarding series, we looked at 211 organizations. We looked at 90 days of communication. We looked at over 2,000 emails, categorized them, looked through value proposition, call to action, all sorts of stuff. My good friend Michelle did the bulk of that work, so credit where credit is due. And here's some things that she pulled out as she did this deep dive into the data. A pattern is emerging. And I'll pause for 1 second. It's really hard when you're looking at macro level performance data and trying to draw clear patterns and trends down to more tactical nuances, like, do you send from a person or do you send from a brand name? You're never going to see the one-to-one perfect correlation. But our hope was that we would find some patterns and some trends, and that really emerged in this recent study. Here's some key findings, and I think you'll see the pattern as we go. Organizations with high retention rates, they send more of their emails from actual human beings. Again, we just looked at that as a one-off kind of experiment and test. But these organizations with high performance and retention, more people giving to you year after year after year, not having to go reacquire them, these organizations are more likely to send emails from real people. Now, you might say, like, the difference is marginal, but you can start to see the trend. We split these organizations into 3 tiers: high performers, mid performers, low performers. The high performers are a little bit more likely to send from human beings. But that's not the only finding. Again, there's a pattern that's emerging. Secondly, we found this: high retention organizations are the most likely to eliminate distracting calls to action in their email and just ask you to do one thing at a time in a more conversational, kind of authentic way, not overloading you with decisions, but having a logical, clear conversation asking you to do one thing at a time. Here's what the data says. These high retention organizations send the fewest amount of emails that have a bunch of different stuff to do. They're more likely to send emails that have one call to action. We've also found this: high retention organizations are less prone to send this type of passive cultivation of just sending, stories of impact and organizational updates. Instead, they're more likely to opt to send more active cultivation or content offers. Again, like ebooks, surveys, petitions, videos. You got to go fill out a quick form to go get access to a video series or to an online course. These more active pieces of cultivation content. High retention organizations are more likely to send those than passive information. Here's what the data says. Again, those high retention organizations, least likely to just send passive information and passive newsletters. We saw that in the one-off experiment led to a 920% increase in donations by sending more content offers, but we're seeing the pattern emerge that it might also impact retention rates. Last one for you here too. Low retention organizations are the least likely to ask their donors to hit reply to their emails and have a one-to-one communication with a human being on the other end. But we see these mid and high performing organizations send a much more significant percentage of their emails actually asking people to hit reply and engage with a human being on the other side. So I think you see the pattern emerging, but let's go back to our deserted island of poor, abysmal, boring donor retention rates that seem to be stuck in the mud at 40 to 45%. Again, we're turning over every rock and stone, asking critical questions to try to figure out how do we get off this thing? How do we get to a place where we can see retention grow and actually see these hard-earned donors stick around and continue to invest in the cause? And I told you, this kind of secret message in a bottle floated along, it felt like, as we're asking all these different questions. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the ultimate takeaway of what can move the needle in a practical way to increase retention is this. Here's what the message says. The most practical way to increase retention might simply be to treat our new donors like they're actual human beings. There are all sorts of things we can do on the tactical level, but the macro level takeaways, all these things are treating donors like humans, investing first in the relationship, in stewarding it, in cultivating it, not just being grateful for the gift and moving on with life and going to find the next new donor, but actually spending the time to engage in a meaningful way to scale one-to-one relationships across our fundraising programs and invest in donors like the people they are. And it turns out this is more like a fortune cookie. You go flip it over and there's actually a lucky number on the back, or a lucky metric to optimize for, which is how do we optimize for that second gift rate of new donors while being authentic people all along the way in our communication. There's so much more we can unpack. We're just at about time here. I've got a couple next step things for you. One is this: if you want to dive deeper into more the tactical level of saying, yeah, we've got a few things going out to new donors, we should get better. We have this guide for you. I'm not going to say this is like the definitive, absolute best welcome series you could ever put together, but it's a better starting point. In fact, it's the playbook that we work from as we go implement a new donor series with any organization. It starts with this kind of a timeline and template. So you can scan that QR code, grab this timeline, use it as a guide to go either optimize what you currently have, or maybe you're starting from scratch and use it as a guide as you put copy and messaging together. Secondly, I would love to invite you to join us in Indianapolis in September for the NEO Summit. Sound off in the chat if you've been to NEO Summit. Let me know what you thought of it and let the group know if they should come or not. We love the NEO Summit. We bring in about 1,000+ fundraisers every year to talk about data-driven, proven ways that we can actually move the needle on giving and on generosity. Oftentimes, we're bringing in speakers from even the for-profit space who have innovative ideas that's working out here to grow profits for all these companies. Why don't we bring those into our space? Because we think that there's an opportunity to go inject some further innovation into our sector and actually lift giving and generosity in a meaningful way. So you can scan that QR code, use the code VIRTUOUS24, and you can save $600 on your ticket. Would love to see you live and in person at the NEO Summit in Indianapolis. You can see the quote for this person who attended last year. NEO made an absolute change on their career trajectory, raising the amount of money that they've been able to bring in for their organization. It's an investment you should make. I see Natalie calling out the green slime. I was in charge of the slime zone last year. So we have a lot of fun at NEO. I'd love to have some fun with you there as well. I'll leave these up on the screen. I think we've got maybe 1 minute to see if we got any major questions we can answer. If you've got something that goes unanswered today, just shoot me a note, nathan@nextafter.com. Happy to chat with you. Stephen, over to you.
I'm back to welcome you after another great talk. You know, one of marketing's little tragic ironies is that the most important thing to do is also one of the hardest things to do, and that is to talk to people like they're real human beings. It's a challenge. We fall into the world of what I call schmarketing, just like that at any given moment.
Yeah, you're exactly right. At some point along the way, we learned what it sounds like to be marketers, and we lost the human element of that. And we've got to retrain ourselves to just talk like the people we talk like every day outside of marketing world and engage with human beings. So, well,
thank you, Nathan. You know I love you, and I'm so glad you're here every year. We'll see you again soon.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you all. Take care. We'll see you soon.